Now that Jace's storyline is complete, it's time to take a look at Chandra, a scrappy young lass who is prone to brushing against authorities. Because it seems her idea of fun conflicts with the authorities, and they don't quite understand her. Except one of the times she's cornered, this first time, fire erupts from her hands. And I'm not entirely certain if it's confirmed, I believe it is, that the young pyromancer on that card is supposed to be Chandra herself. I'll correct myself in the next episode if it turns out that is not supposed to be Chandra. Of course, naturally I start with the pyromancer, figuring that the instants and sorceries is probably going to be the way to win this match. And I actually kind of like this idea because they may have existed before, but this deck the opponent has and kind of this storyline is about the only time you see red as artificers, builders. Because a lot of times, red is about destroying the artifacts, getting rid of them, eliminating them, not building them. That's more commonly a neutral or occasionally blue thing. Except for the core in white, who are more about equipment than artifacts. They get boosts when they have a certain number of equipment or have an equipment equipped, and they can pull out other equipment representing the sword, shields, armor they use. Of course, it seems young Chandra has the ability to call upon fire elementals. But then the authorities are sending an army of robots after us, so they may be asking for it. And I don't know if it's because they felt like Chandra needed more fire spells to represent her early on, but her deck is one of the ones that's heavy with her named cards right from the get-go. Some of the others, the cards that represent their background, don't get added on until later, though with Gideon, basically all of the monster cards in its deck are supposed to represent the various irregulars he has working with him. Essentially only destroys one of their creatures, but I mainly wanted to get a second instant or sorcery in the graveyard so we can start activating the spell mastery stuff. That gives us elemental for casting it, and the elemental is going to be handy in chump blocking. Ooh, blue. Red-blue. Haven't seen too many multicolored. I think this may be the first. I would have to look back in Jace's, but flying in haste. Potential. Right off the bat, the main problem I have with Chandra's deck, and that I continue to have throughout, is one that I had similar to Jace's, that it's not committing hard enough to the theme it's trying to go for. It's trying to go for the, like, rush them down, do a ton of damage, eliminate creatures with spells, you can just attack with your haste creatures, but I honestly think the mana curve is too high for that, because there's quite a few really cheap red spells that I don't know if they just didn't bring them up in this set, or they just decided not to put them in the deck, but like lightning, lightning bolt, and a few others that do 1, 2, 3 damage for like 1, 2, 3 cost. That can just nuke the enemy down in a hurry and in a fabulously spectacular fashion. And then of course some of the cards could be more versatile. Like instead of either just targeting the player or just targeting the creature, some of the best like damage dealing cards you can target it whatever you need to. Or I think they're only in one set, but overload cards where if you paid the mana cost, it could hit everything. Which is always just lovely. Kind of a tough call whether to attack here. I decide to skip it, hoping that I'll draw into something or the opponent will do something that I probably shouldn't, so I can get a little bit more advantage. I don't, so I decide to just attack with the 2 elementals and the flying creature. Knowing that in the likely pairings, at least 2 of them survive. I don't get any damage done, but I have a better control of the board. But yeah, this makes me angry. When several turns in a row you draw into just land and no creatures to play, and it's when I think that there's too much land in the deck. Especially if you get a tighter control over how much each card costs, so that even with like 10 to 12 mana, you can cast 3 to 4 cards every turn if you get them, or you can play consistently, but that may just be my preference over theirs. So she escapes the authorities and runs into a nearby building. Tune in next time to see what happens in said building.